Lucky, joined by MVP and the third man, Alexis. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. We got a bunch of content coming to you. We just did the top 5 best storylines. So let me go in here and change it to top 5 worst storylines while Matt kicks us off. What do you got at number 1?
The infamous Katie Vick storyline.
Oh, yeah.
Now you have Triple H going up against Kane for the World Heavyweight title. And just to, play mind games, you have Triple H going, hey, do you remember what happened to Katie Vick? And it just shakes Kane. And then the next week we have footage from the funeral. And you have Triple H dressed in Kane.
Yeah.
Going up to the casket that had a cadaver, and he just has sex with the cadaver as Kane.
Yeah. I humped your brains out. I'll never forget that.
Didn't he have a mannequin too? I thought he came out with a mannequin too.
Yeah, it was a mannequin in the casket, yeah.
In the casket, right.
In the casket, yeah.
Crazy.
And just implicating that what do they call it? Necrophilia?
Yeah.
Iliac.
So Kane's a necrophiliac.
Worst storyline.
He has sex with dead people.
Oh my god!
It's like the opposite of The Sixth Sense.
Yeah,
you don't just see the dead people, but anyway.
I screwed your brains out, and he just the brains,
the brains. My number 1. I'll just keep it very short and brief. I don't have to elaborate on it. It's a worst storyline ever. Mark Henry gets Mae Young pregnant, and Mae Young gives birth to a hand. If there's anyone not watching wrestling that never watched before and they heard me just say that, they'd never believe me. That on a wrestling program, a 90-year-old woman gave birth to a hand.
And then the payoff was how many years later where I don't know, they show Mark Henry and then they show like an adult hand.
Yeah.
Dad!
Was it even a black hand?
Yeah.
Or was it a white hand?
I think it was a white hand.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was my number 1.
Mark Henry's illegitimate handson.
Yep.
Your handson.
All right, my number 1. My number 1 is going to be the imposter Kane versus Kane storyline. I thought it was terrible.
May 19th.
This was when Kane. This was when Kane didn't have his mask.
Yep.
And he had he was bald headed, and it was I just didn't like it. I thought it was a bad play on the Undertaker versus Undertaker storyline that was done some years ago, and I think Kane lost too at the Vengeance pay-per-view between them two. Fun fact, it was our boy Luke Gallows. Imposter Kane. So
sure was.
Didn't like it, thought it was terrible, and definitely one of the worst storylines on my list.
This was the payoff to the See No Evil movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Good movie, by the way. Pretty good.
Decent.
What do you got, Matt, on your number 2?
Mr. McMahon's illegitimate son. Now, we were teased for weeks. There's an attorney coming out, and Mr. McMahon's like, I represent somebody that you used to have sex with, and she's suing you because you have a son, and he's a WWE superstar. Now, this illegitimate son was supposed to end up being Mr. Kennedy, because they teased many moments where they were backstage, and he exhibited different traits that Mr. McMahon had, like his power walk. Kennedy walked a little funny, and then he would even hey, he walks funny, and then he walks away with his power walk. So stuff like that. Mr. Kennedy then gets in trouble. I'm guessing he violated the drug policy, so he had to suspension for 60 days or so. So they had to kill that storyline. And what do they do? His illegitimate son becomes Hornswoggle.
Very reminiscent to Game of Thrones.
So yeah, that's my number 2.
Hey, Hornswoggle, future WWE Hall of Famer.
That
I'm with it. I'm with it.
I love how I picked. I'm looking at my list. Everything I picked, I don't have to elaborate on much because it literally speaks for itself. For example, there's a storyline where Taka Michinoku and all these guys feuded with Val Venus. And what was the name of that group? Taka Michinoku and
Kai and Tai.
Kai and Tai. Yes. Kai and Tai on live television without the police getting called on them cut Val Venus's penis off with a martial arts sword. I cut off your pee-pee. Again, if you never watch wrestling, you'd never believe me if I just said that, but that did happen. Worst storyline ever.
What was the chick's name that Val Venus had a video with? Or
Yeah, I forgot.
I chop off your pee-pee.
Yeah. So that was my number 2. What you got, Alexis?
Indeed. Cut off that pee-pee. My number two. I'm gonna go with kind of put a little damper on the mood. The Crucifixion of the Sand in 1996.
Man.
It was a feud between Raven and the Sandman. Sandman was the ECW World Champion during the time, and this was, that Philadelphia crowd even went silent. They physically put the Sandman on a cross, put barbed wire around his head, and crucified him. Crucified him on live TV, and just one of the worst storylines I think you can come up with. You could have done a million other things, and during that whole ordeal, Kurt Angle was on ECW. He actually quit that night. Told Paul Heyman, if you put my name or my face on any part of this show, you're gonna be hearing from my attorney. So very, very bad shadow on the wrestling business. The Crucifixion of the Sandman, ECW, 1996.
That's a crazy one.
Yeah. My number.
What about you, Matt?
My number 3. I know we had this on our best, but this ends up also on my worst. WWE buys WCW. Now, the storyline itself, like it writes itself, but it becomes bad when the people you get in the acquisition are B or C guys. Your A talent just wants to sit at home collecting the paycheck. So
Which you can blame them.
No, absolutely not. But we get Booker T out of it.
Yeah, could have been better for sure. Could have been way better.
Could have been way better.
That's my number 3.
Yeah. You started off, right?
Yep, you're number 3. Left.
You just did number 3, so I'm on number 3.
Yes.
Okay. Again, I don't have to elaborate much because it's self-explanatory. But the feud one time, again, if you're not watching wrestling, you don't understand a word I'm saying. Big Boss Man feuded with Al Snow. And Al Snow had a dog named Pepper. And Big Boss Man fed Al Snow his dog Pepper. And I'll top that off to any non-wrestling fan watching this. I'll top that off. The guy that ate his own dog also had a mannequin head that he brought to the ring with him all the time. But yeah, Big Boss Man feeds Al Snow his dog Pepper is my number 3. To Alexis.
Doesn't get much work. To me, I'm gonna go with a pretty new storyline that totally flopped. That they really put a lot of time in was Retribution.
The Nexus knockoff.
Yeah, another Nexus knockoff with Mustafa Ali and the crew. I think Dijak was in there. They had these very weird names.
Mace, Slapjack.
Yeah, just very, very weird, kind of
T-bar.
like a mixture of the Nexus and stuff doing with like the Purge with all the masks. Just a
Antifa.
Yeah, just a terrible storyline. I was, I mean, we've all been watching wrestling for a long time, and that was just one of the biggest flops on a faction that they've put, a lot of time and money in. So Retribution is going to be number 3 on my list. Terrible.
That was
Yeah,
terrible.
no, I hear you on that.
My number 4. Shawn Michaels works for JBL. So this wasn't a long storyline. Shawn Michaels came on some hard times, and then all of it, out of nowhere, he had hard times, and out of nowhere you see him helping out JBL, and you're like, what's going on here? Because JBL's a heel, and he's an uber babyface. Turns out, to help Shawn Michaels come out of the money problems, JBL gives him a loan, and in turn he works for him, and the it didn't last long because eventually it turned into Shawn Michaels versus JBL. If Shawn Michaels wins, he doesn't have to work for JBL, and he still gets paid in full.
Yeah, but there was it got to a point even when JBL and him had a tag match or a triple threat match maybe for a title opportunity, and then Shawn Michaels was going to win that match, and then he told him, "You have to lay down and let me pin you."
Yeah, I remember.
Shawn Michaels had no choice but to let him do it because he
Works for
just
him.
helped his family, right? So, yeah, that was a pretty good storyline. That was right before WrestleMania 25.
You said really good storyline. That was horrible.
Well,
That was terrible.
that was right when I came back into watching wrestling, so maybe I thought it was good for what it was. But um, um, no, I get it. Number 4, this was terrible. The anonymous Raw general manager.
Yep.
May I have your attention, please? I have just got an email from the anonymous Raw general manager, and it states, and then he'd read
And
it,
I
and then
quote,
the whole time, yeah, and I quote, the whole time you're thinking it's someone big like Stone Cold The Rock, something big's gonna happen. There's gonna be a big payoff. I can't wait to find out who the anonymous Raw general manager is on this laptop, on this podium. And at the very end of the payoff, there was a laptop under the ring controlled by Hornswoggle.
Future WWE Hall of
yes,
Fame.
yes, sir, yes, sir.
Now that
It
you
was
talked
absolutely
about
terrible.
Now that you guys talked about it, now I remember the anonymous general manager. That's when Michael Cole used
Yeah.
to have the laptop, right, to make the announcements.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, that was terrible, and that went on for a
Yep.
while.
Yeah.
It did. What do you got at number 4, Alexi?
All right, number 4, Judy Bagwell on a pole match storyline.
Goodness.
I mean, WCW, man, was coming up with some crazy ass stuff.
Everything
And
was on a pole at one point.
everything was on a pole, and I think this was like a forklift. I think she was like
Yeah.
standing like
It's
ass
too
of a
big to
forklift.
be on a pole, so they use a forklift.
Oh my god, dude! And just the worst storyline. I mean, I get trying to put real life into wrestling or whatever, but they just went way over the line, way over the line. So anybody who doesn't remember the Judy Bagwell on a pole match storyline, check it out on Peacock. I'm sure it's in the archives.
Oh yeah.
So bad.
All right. Number 5, Matt. Who you got?
My number 5, Shawn Michaels and God versus the McMahons. So
The actual spotlight followed God, right?
God had his own entrance, a spotlight just going down the ramp, and then you see Vince and Shane in a church, and he drinks the holy water, and then he
Yeah.
claims a new religion, McMahonism. But
McMahon.
yeah,
Terrible storyline.
terrible.
My 5th and final one. In the WCW days, there was a movie Ready to Rumble with David Arquette. And the payoff to that is they had David Arquette win the WCW Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
Oh,
One of the worst storylines ever. You gave an actor the most prestigious belt in the world. Get out of here.
Get
I
out
got
of
nothing
here.
to say about that. I got nothing to say about that. That aggravates me to this day. What's your final one there, Alexis?
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna go with the storyline of Chavo Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio right after Eddie died,
Oh
and
yeah.
then that's when, remember that when they introduced Vicky Guerrero
Mm-hmm.
into the storyline. I just thought that was just a terrible way to just kind of, you know, play on the death of Eddie Guerrero. I know a lot of people probably don't remember it, and for good reason. It just something that just didn't never sat well with me. Um,
Yeah.
just those two guys who really had good relationships with Eddie, and I get it. Vicky had kids to support, so they wanted to give her get her in the business and get her paid. But I just thought that storyline between those guys just didn't need to happen. Just terrible storyline. Not really funny, putting a little damper on the mood, but just that's probably gonna round out my five.
There you go. Any quick honorable mentions?
Honorable. How about Kurt
Gobbledygooker.
Angle? Oh yeah. Oh, also Kurt Angle's a
What were you saying,
legitimate
Alexis?
son.
Oh.
Uh,
Yeah,
Kurt Angle's a legitimate son with Jordan, Jason Jordan.
Jason Jordan.
Just just terrible. Just terrible. I
it
mean,
should
it
have been
didn't help.
Chad Gable.
Yes. Shoo, she
Should have
should have
been.
been the for sure. For sure.
My
So
only honorable mention is without the police getting involved and without lawyers getting involved, the law system in America decided Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio could fight for custody of Dominic Mysterio in a ladder match. So there you go. That's the final one. If you're new to the channel, again, make sure you subscribe and all that good stuff. And we will see you on the next one. Make sure you subscribe to the link for the best storylines at the end here too as well. So, all right, boys, we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.
alrighty.